We try to prepare our players for 5 different types of blocks: sweep blocking, trap blocking, pass blocking, option blocking, zoom blocking. Of course, the zoom is the pass run option type blocks. Our rules are really simple. They apply to most of our formations. In our scheme, we send a lot of receivers out, usually 3, sometimes 4. To compensate for this, we're going to have to make our blocking scheme simple, and we're going to have to get ready for the blitz, which is the weapon of choice for defensive coordinators. We have 4 basic types of pass blocks: Rico, which means help from the right, doesn't matter who applies the help; Lucy, which is help on the left; Nada, which means we don't have any help and just basically the 3 interior linemen are blocking; Deuce, which is double help on both the right and the left. The T Rico and T Lucy are temporary helps, usually on delay type pass plays. We want our players to be prepared for almost any front that they may see. Our formations usually eliminate a lot of different types of defensive fronts as well as certain blitz threats. This is an example of a Rico, that is, help right. Our players usually have their Ricos and Lucy calls with them on their wristbands, and they'll make them right after the huddle breaks. Ricos and Lucys can be applied by any player other than interior linemen. Linemen need to know where the help is coming from, and they'll usually have what type of help they're going to have on their wristband, but they may not know who's applying that help until the huddle breaks and the call is made. Here, a Lucy block, that's a help left, is being applied to the left defensive end by the tight end. As I said earlier, almost any player can get a Rico or a Lucy. Our wristbands will generally indicate which player is helping. This diagram demonstrates a nada with a look. The nada call alerts the line that they have no help. In other words, they have no Rico or Lucy call to either side. The look is by the inside slot. He is looking for an inside blitz, and if he sees one, he'll alter his route to take advantage of it. Blocking a forefront is not as complicated as it looks. Generally, we would rather block the forefront because there are a lot less blitz options for the defense. The big rule here is to scoop away from help. It is rare that we do anything different. If we have a nada call against a forefront, it would require us to let go of the slow poke. That is, the person or the defensive lineman that stands to do the least damage. Most of our plays versus a forefront would have some type of at least temporary help called. This diagram is an example of a motion blitz. It's a very common blitz, and it can require a triple scoop away from help. A Rico on this diagram would allow for number 1, our right guard, to pick up the nose. Number 2, our center would pick up the left defensive end, and number 3, our left guard would pick up the motion blitz. Most teams won't do a middle blitz as well as a motion blitz, but if they do, it leaves a massive window open on the left side of the defense. A face blitz is another common blitz. It comes right in the face of the motion. If we have a running play called, the defender making the face blitz is probably already accounted for. For example, in this diagram, the corner putting on the face blitz would come down or inside our renegade end, so we would just simply take him down and pop out and run around. When passing, we apply our Rico or Lucy to the face blitz. If this happens, the player applying the Rico or Lucy must remember to make a free call. That means he just turned the defensive end free. As long as there's no middle blitz, we still have enough blockers to block all rush threats. In our passing game, we have 2 types of pass plays: individual routes and team routes. To call an individual route, we usually designate the player by his letter and then the route that we want him to run. Players nearby need to run corresponding routes. If we called a Renegade T speed out with a Rico, the T would run the speed out. The L, which would be the split end to the left, would run a go or some deep route to correspond with it. The F back would apply the Rico. We could even designate it as F Rico if we wanted to help the player know who was supposed to apply the Rico or the help. With team routes, every player has a predetermined route, and they all work together. The quarterback has a read progression with a primary receiver. The primary receiver is not always the first read. There are times that we look at the defenders for reads and determine between two receivers. Examples of this would be combos or smash type plays. We try to have 10 team routes chosen specifically for our weekly opponents, and we try to work on these routes every day, even if it's just a couple of times. These are the most common defenses that we see versus our Renegade offense. You'll notice that the forefront is not listed. We have seen very little forefront over the years versus the Renegade. It's in general just not sound. However, we have been hurt by it a few times when the defensive fronts were extremely talented, especially at the defensive end position. The 31 trigger is the most common defense that we see. It's generally a man coverage. It can be zone, but it's generally man. The blitz threat is generally the middle linebacker. The 2-2 box coverage is generally man. Blitz threat, inside linebackers. Also, motion or face blitzes are common. The 2-1, we call it flex. We don't see it very often. It can be a formidable defense. Coverage is man or zone. Blitz threats are usually middle linebacker. Also, motion and face blitzes are very common out of the flex. This diagram is of the trigger, the 3-1 defense. It's the most common defense that we've seen against the Renegade. However, we saw less and less of it as the years went by. The weaknesses of the trigger: motion counter trap, generally with the quarterback; reverse trap with the motion; sweep, but a lot of times we have to cut it up; the quarterback draw; and motion slant, hitch and go, anything with the backside away from motion. This is the 2-2 box alignment, and it can vary as to how they align the box. Motion blitz is very common out of this, as well as inside blitz. The weaknesses to this defense: crossing routes, sweeps, backside traps, swing series type plays to the Renegade side, and combo smash routes to the wide side. This is the flex alignment. It's the most complicated defense to work against, and a big part of that is because there's a variety of blitz threats that are possible. The good thing is the flex does have its weaknesses, the biggest of which is the jet sweep. Also, quarterback blast or quarterback sweeps are big against it. Middle motion traps are really good. Rollout passes and the swing series, generally to the Renegade side, are all excellent versus this defense.